When one looks up at the night sky, they are staring into eternity's heart. For space is ever expanding, and time will never stop, not even if it was to be held down by 1,000 of the strongest gods. As we look into the night sky, we are met with ourselves, past, future, and present, all of which have and will exist under the same night sky we look up at every night. When eternity's heart is met with our eyes, we are reminded of how truly minuscule and irrelevant our problems are. When we can acknowledge and understand we're just another dot in the blackness of space. I was around 10 years old, and I just received terrible news in my science class. I had learned the horrifying truth that one day our beloved sun would die and take the earth with it on its journey of death. However, this day wouldn't come for another 5 billion years. Nonetheless, I was stressed, upset, scared, and any other feeling an illogically thinking 10-year-old can feel when learning the earth will die eventually. The whole day, my heart was beating through my chest, pounding against my ribcage, feeling as though it was about to burst out of my chest and run away. Later that evening, I had some time to myself, so I excused myself out of the house to go for a walk, in hopes of calming myself down. Once I stepped outside, I was reminded of my irrational fear that a scary ghost was supposedly waiting around the corner for me. So, rather than wasting my precious 10-year-old life on a walk, I decided to just stand where I stood and look up into the night sky. Within that same moment, I suddenly felt at peace. Looking up into nothingness and seeing all the dots surrounded by black reminded me of how big space is and how little I truly was. Being there, in that one moment, helped me come back to reality. I returned to the present rather than being stuck in the future, worried about what might happen, and reminded myself that I'm still alive, and I'm still present. Therefore, my worries were just as meaningless as the ghost. This too shall pass. Essentially, this philosophy pushes us to learn to accept and understand that eventually, what we feel will soon be behind us.
I wish I had known that this too shall pass. You feel bad right now? You feel pissed off? You feel angry? This too shall pass.
Great.
You feel great? You feel like you know all the answers? You feel like that everybody finally gets you, and there you are? This too shall pass.
Ooh, good.
Time is your ally, and if nothing else, just wait.
Just wait.
Now, although I hadn't learned about this philosophy up until this year, I did learn about an alternative philosophy. Be realistic. The people who told me this most often were my parents. Whether I developed another irrational fear, or I just happened to be overthinking something, they would tell me to just be realistic. As time went on, I learned to suppress these thoughts by reassuring myself that I just wasn't being realistic. The beauty of self-growth is that it takes time. You experience your growth through conflict, through happiness, through experiences, whether they be your own or others, and you experience growth through rage. Growth isn't something that comes overnight like a bad headache, rather something that blossoms over an extended period of time, like a beautiful tree slowly sprouting into a gentle giant. When reflecting on my past, I'm capable of being honest and acknowledging that I've come a long way from who I once was.
If there's one person I could credit my growth to, apart from myself, it would be my best friend, Jordan. Jordan and I have known each other since first grade. Although it took some time for us to actually become close friends, it eventually happened. A few thousand hangouts later, he earned the humble title of being my best friend. With this title came a lot of personal talks and a lot of advice. Out of all of these talks, one piece of advice has been more impactful than any other. Be the observer and not the observed. Instead of continuously putting myself out there, he suggested I keep to myself more, so that I can learn to read people better. At first it was hard, and I felt like I was trying to be someone I wasn't. But just like this tree, this philosophy soon grew into a habit. The reason why this philosophy had such an effect on me was because I simply wasn't happy with who I was when Jordan gave me that advice. I felt like I simply did too much to try to be liked by others. Learning to observe kept me quiet and showed me who had no place in my life. Say you're out with a group of friends. Within this group of friends is a new individual, an individual that you've never met before. Given that there's a lack of history between the two of you, and a lack of knowledge on who they are, you develop a level of distrust towards them. Now pause. Really visualize yourself in this situation. Would you have done the same? What would come out of this situation? A few outcomes I can personally think of are unnecessary conflict, trust issues, and perhaps even some forms of anxiety. Rather than developing such a level of distrust towards this one person,
always trust everyone to be themselves, but trust in the fact that you can see them well. I mean?
when you spend enough time around someone, you'll eventually get to know them. As a child, it wouldn't matter who I let into my life, no matter how long I knew them, as long as I thought they were my friend. Through experiences came a mountain of trust issues. I was barely opening myself up anymore, and it was clearly unhealthy for me. With time, I learned to let go of my trust issues and let people into my life again, so long as I saw them for who they were. One philosophical system that I cannot express my fathom for enough is Stoicism. For those who don't know, Stoicism is a philosophy of life that maximizes positive emotions, reduces negative emotions, and helps individuals to hone their virtues of character. Although Stoicism has been around for thousands of years, it was only introduced to me 2 years ago. As mentioned earlier, 2 years ago was the peak of my insecurity. Apart from Jordan's wonderful advice he'd given me, researching and practicing Stoicism played a big part in my growth as well. No one's perfect. However, one can reach a point at which they've almost reached perfection, but will have to continue to embark on an endless journey, on a road that never ends, with the sun that never sets, in hopes of continuously bettering themselves. I know I'll never be perfect, and I'm content with it, but as long as I know I'm always better than I was yesterday, greater than I was a year ago, and closer to who I will be 10 years from now, I'm at peace. We only have so much time on Earth. The beauty of life lies in the horror of time. Like how space is ever expanding, time is continuously moving forward. With every second that passes by, are moments that shall never return, no matter how great the efforts to relive them may be. As the hourglass continues to run out, so does the window for becoming the person we want to be. I believe that in this life, the biggest regret one can have is simply not doing what they wanted to.